like to introduce myself. If any of y'all know me or don't know me, I'm Michael Bohnen from EOS USA. I'm the CTO over here, and try to do all the geek stuff to keep the BP nodes running and all the other services and support and everything that we do. So we're based out of Greenville, South Carolina. That's where our primary nodes and everything are located. We've also got an office down in Panama where we run some secondary backup nodes. So if the United States is not able to communicate, we can still sign those blocks that you need from the nodes down there. Active BP on lots of different chains. Of course, we really feel like being able to contribute across a lot of the EOSIO chains allows us to bring some of the knowledge and some of the issues and even products and services from some of the other chains over to Telos. So that's really been kind of one of our big strengths. One of the recent exploits that was found in the code, exploit's a relative term, but a bug. Ultimately, what was figured out was, if you understand what REX is the ability to lease resources on the chain. So if you don't have Telos, you can spin a little Telos and get access to a lot of resources on the chain that you may not normally have. You rent them. What they figured out was that you could rent those resources and the votes for those resources counted. So if you had a proposal or something that you particularly wanted to pass, you could go and rent a whole bunch of resources and ultimately get those votes for a minimal amount of time, try to get your proposal to go through, and then ultimately the lease expires and you've got your proposal passed and everything's done and gone. So what was identified was that is not the intended methodology that was supposed to work. So it was kind of considered a bug. So it was really kind of neat to see all the BPs and the devs and everything come together. And I want to say it was like, I don't know, about a 36-hour turnaround from when the bug first got reported. Hey, by the way, this doesn't seem right. Does anybody else see the same thing? And so really the process kind of went, once it started getting announced in the public channels, we started immediately discussing it in some of the private BP channels, where the real magic happens, and obviously identifying that was not the intended process and what we needed to do to fix it. So pretty immediately, the group of Telos Core Devs, so you'll see it referred to as the TCD, but there's a lot of programmers and smart folks that kind of get together to help write the code, review the code, add these features for Telos, that we're able to do. So ultimately what happened was the TCD started reviewing the code and figuring out, that is the case and definitely wasn't intended. So what can we do to fix it? Obviously change the code. So the TCDs, a couple hours, sat down and banged out a fix to the code, and then started rolling that through all of the testing processes. Because of course, we all think that the code is great when we write it, but then when it actually gets used, it may or may not function that way. So we normally have kind of a 2-tier or 3-tier process for deploying things, 4-tier if you include local development. So the dev will kind of do their own thing on their own node. Then once they feel, yes, okay, things are solid and we want to try to get this patch out, get the chain working this way, we'll then deploy it to what we call the stage net. And so it's really kind of a private, there's only a couple of nodes on it. We'll delete the network and start over and everything, but it's really a private little area for all of us super nerds to beat the crap out of the chain. And if it breaks, we'll just relaunch the chain. And if it doesn't, then hey, it worked like it was supposed to. Then kind of the next level of deployment is the Telos testnet. So we maintain all the BPs are required to have a node and APIs and everything on the testnet for us to be able to vet some of the code changes and everything before they go to mainnet, as well as have a playground for dApps and devs and whatnot to play with without having to spend real Telos or make a mistake on the real public chain. So ultimately they did their initial dev, then they deployed it to StageNet, ran a few tests, made sure everything worked like it was supposed to, then deployed it out to testnet, made sure that everything was functioning properly there. And then ultimately we rolled it out to the mainnet. And since then, the problem has since been fixed. So a little bit of detail about how does that fix get applied. So ultimately, the devs will publish proposed code changes. So it's a multi-sig, what we call them. It's a multi-sig that 15 of 21 active BPs have to agree and sign off on with their approval. And then once the 15th BP approves it, somebody can execute, either the original person or the BPs can execute the proposal, which ultimately will make the changes that have been proposed.